Welcome to the Next Gen Podcast. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Bryson and Alex Winton. They got next, so let's get to the show.
Hello and welcome into the Next Gen Podcast here on the Bluff City Media Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Bryson and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Winton. And we got a lot of great stuff to get to today, but we got to start. We just got done. We're recording this on Sunday night. We just got done watching the Dallas Mavericks take a 3-0 lead over the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. Boston also took a 3-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, obviously, the series is not over, but nobody's ever come back from 3-0. Yeah, nobody's ever come back from 3-0. And everybody basically knows this is going to be Celtics Mavericks finals at this point. There's not really much left to debate about that. I did want to start with that Timberwolves game just because we just got finished watching it. And I'll say the number one thing that I came away from that game was just that, I feel like Karl Anthony Towns still has not figured out the shot selection thing. That's one of the things I came away with. The whole Gobert and Cat front court, is very tough, especially for a team playing a team like the Mavericks, because anytime Luka or Kyrie had Cat or Gobert on them, they were just like, all right, barbecue chicken, it's time. We're scoring every time. That's really what it felt like. Anytime Cat or Gobert really had to get on to Luka or Kyrie, there's nothing they can really do about it. And then, Jaden McDaniels being in foul trouble, I think that hurt him a lot as well. He was doing his best, but it's there's not much you can do with the two of those guys, especially when he's also having to make up for some of their other defensive liabilities. But It's really the best, the NBA playoffs is all about matchups. It's all about matchups. The Timberwolves really are built to beat a team like the Nuggets, right? They're not really built to beat a team like the Mavericks with the two guards and everything. That's kind of how I feel watching these games. And I also just feel like the Mavericks, the trades that the Mavericks made at the trade deadline, I know we talked about it on deadline day, and I'm pretty sure on that day I was I think the Mavericks won the trade deadline. Because, Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington have been awesome for them. And it's they've been the swing players. And then Derek Lively, you don't always see rookies make impacts like this in the playoffs their first year. And obviously I know he got hurt tonight. Hopefully he'll be fine and he'll be able to continue to play. I know he's had a lot of stuff going on with him in his personal life as well. So hopefully he can come back and be healthy. And he's playing awesome. He's outplaying Rudy Gobert. It's not even very close. So I just feel like those moves they made, drafting Lively, all of that stuff kind of just has meshed perfectly. And I think that Luka and Kyrie have finally figured out the two-man game of when is okay, instead of Luka having to be ball dominant the whole game, he's now deferring to Kyrie a little bit more. And then he's getting his teammates involved a lot more. And he doesn't always have to be the one getting the assist. He's swinging the ball better and everything. I think he trusts his teammates a lot more than he used to, but he also has better teammates. So it's
exactly.
Both ways.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's another thing too about the whole, to start with what you were talking about. It's not only helping that, but helping his defense too. I've always said this is the best I've seen Luka defend in his life ever. Ever. He's making plays like that one play I think he made. I think it was, I can't remember if it was game 1 or game 2 where he basically deflected that Rudy Gobert lob. That's the best defensive play I've ever seen Luka make in his entire life. Ever. I never expected him to make a play like that, breaking up a lob. He took
a charge too.
Took a charge. Yeah, he's playing defense, but I think a lot of it is because he's not having to make every play because of Kyrie. Again, I said it last year before. Kyrie and Luka is a great duo, but you need more pieces around them. You're not going to win with just those two. And so that's what they did this whole past, year, getting guys like Gafford, getting guys like P.J. Washington, obviously drafting Derek Lively. And obviously I feel like their wing spots can be a little bit better, but you're getting good stuff from Hardy and Jalen, and Josh Green. And Derrick Jones Jr. was a big sign-in too. obviously on a bet man. So, I mean, again, I think a lot of it, like this series, I said, that the Mavericks could win this series. Now, 3-0, I did not expect at all. That I'm just going to keep it real with you. I didn't expect them to go up 3-0, but I did, expect that they could win this series. Because, again, I think clearly, in my opinion, obviously, we'll get to it, talking about the other series, but I think clearly they got the best player left, like in Luka. Like I think arguably at worst you argue Luka's top 3 player, at worst 5 if you want to. Arguably at worst 5. Some might say he's the best, who knows? But like when you have the best player arguably left in the thing, or top 5 player in the league, and then you have the defense that they have, you usually have a chance to do anything. And then on top of that, you got a guy in Kyrie who's been proven as a second option. And as long as you have the role guys stepping up, they got a chance with anybody. So I just thought that they could really, the front court was the big thing. Like you said, Gafford and Lively, I thought that was the biggest thing, because I felt like Luka and Kyrie kind of were going to, I won't say do whatever, but like Luka, like with McDaniels, no disrespect to McDaniels, he's a great defender, but he's a light defender in the sense, like he's not the biggest, he's more of a wiry type of build, where Luka's a bigger build, so he can bump him off the spot a lot easier. So that's why I didn't feel like he was going to affect Luka at all. But the Kyrie thing has been the thing, because Kyrie wasn't as good as he was. Like the last series, he had his worst series, and now this series, he's been balling. And I think that's a big difference, because PJ Washington hasn't been as big as he was in the last series, but he's hit key shots, timely threes, really in the corners. Any corner PJ Washington 3 I see, I feel like it's going in. Like that's just how I feel about that. And Gafford and Lively have been great in neutralizing the Timberwolves front court, because like you said, the Timberwolves front court has not been able to take advantage. Obviously, Cat's having a disaster series from the field. And obviously, like you said, low IQ plays. And also just Ant in general for the Wolves just hasn't been great neither. He was aggressive tonight, better than what he was the past couple games, but even then he's just got to be better. Like again, when you're only averaging what I think in the series 22 a night, that's just not gonna get it done. Even though he's rebounding this, and playmaking, he's got to be score more. He was being too passive in the first 2 games, and now you're in an 0-3 hole. Like it's a lot of different things, but it happens. It's part of it. Obviously, again, I've been saying the big key is like when a big thing that happens, if you got the experience and you got the better player, it usually shows. And I feel like in this series, that's kind of what it's shown. You got guys like Luka, who obviously hasn't won a championship, but he's been to a conference finals. He's been a closer. Kyrie's know how to close games, and that's really the biggest thing, because a lot of these games have been closer than what people might make it out to seem. Like if you go back and look, it's not like these teams have been blown out per se. It's been close games, but it's the fact that the Mavericks have been able to close these games out because of their closers really been the biggest difference. So you just got to give them.
Yeah,
it's
crazy. Like the fourth quarter, you can just tell that it feels like the Timberwolves just they haven't been there before, right?
Yeah.
Ant has had a couple of those like costly turnovers in the fourth quarter games, as well.
Especially game two.
Game 2, he had a couple of those that were just really bad, and it's just like you can't have that turnover right here. And I think it's like a youth thing for him. I think it's also not to say that Anthony Edwards is out of shape. I don't think he's out of shape, but I don't think he was physically ready for the playing, 40 plus minutes every other night for like a month and a half. And
yeah, it's hard to play 3-4 rounds in the playoffs. Like that's people don't understand. Like you got to be in shape and be healthy, and like it's not easy. I'm not saying as an excuse, but it's a different type of thing when you haven't been there before. But yeah.
Oh yeah, and there are some times where there's times in regular life, whether you're talking NBA or you're just talking about whatever, where you might think you're ready for something, and you actually try to do it, and you're like, oh, wait, okay, I need to be like way better before I try. Like, and I think that's something where we're gonna learn a lot about Ant from this offseason, because I feel like this offseason we'll see him be like, okay, like I have to be in the best shape. Like I can't just be in good shape. I have to be in the best shape I've ever been in, because I'm going to be needed to play 40 minutes both ends. And I think it was more in games 1 and 2 that you saw that a little bit, not as much in game 3. But I mean, I think it still qualifies for just this whole series for him. I just feel like because they had him guarding Kyrie on the other end too, and I feel like that really took a lot out of him on having to chase Kyrie around. And you talked about the whole like best play, like having the best player in the series. I mean, the Mavericks have had the two best players in the series so far. I mean,
Yep.
Luka and Kyrie have been the two best players in the series. And coming into that series, I'm like, like for the Timberwolves to win, I'm not saying Ant was going to have to outscore Luka, but Ant was going to have to be the best player in the series for the Timberwolves to win. And he just hasn't been. And it's not all on him. I do also think this is why we need to slow down on some of these players. Like, I know we've hyped Ant up, and I think Anthony Edwards is going to be awesome, but people were saying he's Michael Jordan after the first round, and I'm like, okay, let's chill, right? Let's chill a little bit, because you're putting that's crazy pressure for somebody who's 22, right? He's 22 years old. It's crazy, like, and then obviously they beat the Nuggets and all that. And he's had a great run, but I just feel like you put so much pressure on him that now, he has to be 30 points a night and defensive player of the year on the other end. Like, that's what people are expecting from him now. And not to say I don't think he'll ever be there. I think one day he could be, like, Anthony Edwards could be the best player in the NBA one day. Like, that's not even a question. But he's 22. This is what happens. Young players have growing pains, right? Even talking about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had his growing pains too. Michael Jordan didn't come into the NBA and start winning championships in 2 years, right? It took 8, 9 years before he won his first one, something like that. So it's like there are steps, and there's stuff like these teams, and every team we see, like even the Mavericks have had to take their leagues before they've gotten there. The Celtics haven't, they've made it to the finals. They haven't won it, but we've seen them have their runs, and they have to learn what it's like. I think the thing that I'm more worried about isn't Ant, because I think Ant played great in game 3. For me, it's really just the offensive stuff from Cat. And it's not like a hustle thing. I mean, I think he's been doing, he's hustling. He's getting boards. He's been doing good on the glass. His defense isn't horrible, but it's just it's really tough to guard the Luka and Kyrie stuff. He's not supposed to be guarding Luka and Kyrie one-on-one. That's just not something you're expecting Cat to do. But I just feel like when you're watching him on offense, he just doesn't understand the shot selection thing still. I know that's what I said earlier. Because there is one play in particular down the stretch where he shot a 3. I mean, it was an open 3, but it's he shot a 3 with 19, 18 seconds left on the shot clock in a 4-point game with, I think, a little bit under 2 minutes. So it's okay, you're urgent, but you don't have to have a 3 right here. I feel so often, and he's good enough to where he doesn't have to settle for 3s. And I think that's the frustrating thing that for a Timberwolves fan would be, is dude, we've seen you when you do drive, when you do go to the paint, when you get in the post, you have had some success, but you're still 0 for 8 from 3 tonight. And it's after you miss the first 2 or 3, you got to figure something else out. You know what I mean? Get in a rhythm some other kind of way, because the 3 balls is not falling for him. And it's just the shot selection, especially late game, it hasn't gotten better in the 9 years he's been in the league. He just still doesn't understand that part of, hey, when you get to it, you don't always have to go for the hero ball 3. I mean, we saw it 2 years ago when they played the Grizzlies. He did the same thing. He goes for the hero shot, for the shot that they're going to play on social media after and say, oh, this was the dagger. He plays for that too much. Whereas sometimes, you just got to use your size and get to the rim. You don't always have to be shooting 3s. And I know that you want to be you're the best shooting big man ever. You want a 3-point contest, all that. But it's dude, you do not have to take you don't have to take that shot right there. And I just think him understanding that is that's gonna have to take them to the next level. But I mean, he has to be better than he's been this series if they wanted to go to the finals. And it's just simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, him and Ant, but particularly him as a co-star. I mean, for me, I said it, was it a couple days ago with the Ant thing? Because some people say or not Ant, but Cat, like the thing with Cat, like they, people would call him soft, and I'd be like, he's not soft. It's just more about he's not smart, like a high IQ player. That's the biggest thing. He's one of the more skilled players in the league, but it's about smart, being, having situational awareness, and that's just on both sides of the ball because he is prone to get in. Now, obviously, this series he hasn't really had any foul trouble, but last series he had a lot of foul trouble, a lot of offensive fouls, just questionable shots, and again, he has some games and moments, but it's about consistency with Cat. Like he'll give you one of those games and then end up like he had now in this series, 3 straight bad games, right? So it's really for him, it's about the consistency in his play, especially offensively. Like you said, I think he's taken, if I'm not mistaken, 7 threes in this series. You probably need to get that number down to probably 4. Like if you're shooting this bad, only 14%, more your attempts need to be at the rim, especially when you're only shooting 28%. You got to figure out a way. And now, granted, I will say that's on adjustment on him, but also on Finch to figure out what lineups to work. Because again, if he's going to try to get to the rim or go bare on the floor, that's going to be kind of hard to do because of the floor spacing. So you might have to play more lineups with Cat at the 5, which I mean, or with Nas Reed out there to allow that to happen. But also he's got to make that adjustment too, where he's driving, taking better driving angles, getting better post up, better post up opportunities. Like he's got to find easier opportunities for himself. But I mean, again, like more times than not, players at this stage of their game, they kind of are who they are. And when you're like 28, 29, obviously you can get better in incremental ways, but some of your weaknesses are usually your weaknesses. And so you just kind of have to figure out how you can mitigate those weaknesses as not only as a player, but just as, a team from a roster organizational standpoint. How can you do it? But I mean, even then, some of it you just can't mitigate. Like especially when you're expecting Cat to be the second best player on this team, and Nas Reed's outscoring you. Like it's just hard to overcome that. And then on top of that, your best player is not playing at his best. Again, I know you said Ant had to be the best player in the series. As long as if Ant was as good as Kyrie right now, maybe they might have a better chance. Kyrie's averaging 28. If Ant was averaging 28, they might be in a better spot. But they still need probably more from Cat because they probably still be down in this series, in my opinion, 2-1. Probably they probably win that one of those first games at home. But yeah, I mean, either way, they still would need more. And that's just the name of the game. And this is the offense that was kind of that I won't say expected, but this is also another reason why I wasn't as high on the Wolves as other people's. Because they were really great defensively, but offensively they were like 17th in the league for a reason. Had a lot of inconsistencies. Ant's their only really primary creator. No disrespect to Mike Conley. He's just not that type of guy anymore in terms of being like a guy where you're just gonna like he's not a Kyrie with Luka where you could run everything through him for like 3 or 4 possessions and you're good. Like he's more of a guy that works off of secondary axes and stuff like that. Even though he'll run the offense, he's not a guy you're gonna say, hey, get 5-7 possessions, you're gonna run. This is not 2017 Mike Conley. And then McDaniel is not as so. Yeah, they just never had the consistent offensive weapons to kind of be effective. And this is kind of the result like now where you're playing a team where they can kind of defend you way better, or they can defend you to where you make your offense and puts you in a struggle. And then on top of that, their stars are just playing better, the team that you're going against. So that's just how it is sometimes. Again, it's all about matchups, like you said earlier. It's always about matchups. And again, I think a lot of certain people, not everybody, but certain people were kind of sleeping on the Mavericks in this series per se. I felt like they weren't giving them too much of a chance because how you saw how the Wolves just beat the defending champions, everybody's like, oh, they're finna go to the finals and they might win the finals, which again, this is fair. But at the same time, you also have to account for what the Mavericks were doing, like in the matchup and how that worked. And I always felt like the Mavericks had a really great chance of winning the series. Now, 3-0, again, let me repeat. 3-0 was crazy. I did not expect 3-0. Not expect almost on the verge of sweeping. But I did expect them to at least probably, if I said they were going to win in 6, now they might win in 4. So, I just got to give the Mavericks credit. Listen, they're playing great. And they're 1 game away from the finals. I think they haven't been to the finals since what, 2011? The last time they went, if I'm not mistaken. 2011, the last time they went. So, and it's a whole new cast. So, obviously you've had Luka, but yeah, you got to give shout out to Luka. This is 2 conference finals now. Now he's on the verge of being in his first finals. I mean, listen, and then obviously Kyrie being the second option, like it's a good duo. Like I think there was a stat earlier today or after the game came out, like they were the first duo or backcourt to have like 30 I think each of them both have 30 in like 3 straight games. Like they're special. And then when they're role players,
that's insane. And I think if they finish it, I mean, right now you can already say in terms of offensively talented, they're one of the best backcourts in NBA history, just in terms of offensive talent between two guys.
From a skill standpoint.
Like from a skill standpoint. But I mean, if they continue this and they end this off and they do actually end up getting this ring, like that puts them in the conversation for like, especially if you're talking about just for like one season of like, this is the best season or the best run that a backcourt has had in a while. Just having two guys that are at like, if not the top of their game, or I think Luka's he's going to be better in the future, but Luka's dang near been in
crazy too. That is crazy too. You see he's going to be better.
Luka has been in his prime since he was 23. So like he's basically in his prime, and Kyrie, even though I think like he's 32. He's 32,
but he's still walking 25, 5 and 5. Like,
he doesn't play like he's 32. He still plays like he did. Yeah, he still looks the same. And I mean, the finishing, the ball handling, some of the finishes that Kyrie makes just on a nightly basis is just ridiculous. Like going back and watching it, because it's Kyrie, you don't think about it. And it's the same thing you do with any player. Like when you watch Steph and he's shooting from 40 feet, it just seems normal or whatever. But when you watch some of the, like, if you slow it down and look at these layups that Kyrie is making, the left-handed floaters over, Gobert and Cat, and like, it is insane that he's playing as well as he has, and he has taken this matchup. I think I'm not gonna say it's all because Ant called him out at the end of the last series, but I think that was a big okay. You said you're ready for Kyrie. You're about to get the full Kyrie Irving experience.
Yeah.
That man is giving them the entire. It's 3-pointers, crossovers, drives, floaters, mid-range step backs. Like he's scoring in basically any way that you can think of that you can score. He has scored that way in this series. So he's giving them like the full Kyrie experience, and it's been awesome to watch. Like it has been awesome just to see the two of them play the way they have played, and especially just down the stretch of the games, both of them just being clutch. And that's really what it came down to. I mean, because like we said, all of these games have been close, right? Even tonight, I'm like, even though the Timberwolves did end up, I think, losing by like 9, it was not a 9-point game. And then they lost the other games by 3 points and 1 point. So it's not like they're getting blown out. It's just down the stretch of the game, they don't have answers for Luka and Kyrie. And then if Gobert and Cat help and try to, push up on Luka, it's Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford just getting wide open lobs. And that's why Derek Lively hasn't missed a shot the entire series, because it's all lobs, pocket passes, and dunks. Like that's all he's done. And that's all he has to do.
Yeah, and he's making decisions at the short roll, which is big time. Like he's been elite out of that short roll and making the right reads. Like he's been special. So yeah.
But yeah, so that series, I mean, we're gonna talk about the Celtics and the Pacers too. Obviously, like you said, both of these series are pretty much over at this point. I don't got a lot to say about the Celtics Pacers. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, the better team is winning. The better team is winning. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been who they needed to be. And it comes down to that simple. The Pacers are not ready. The Pacers should have won game 1. They should have won game 1, man. The fact that they didn't win,
maybe game 3. If some people argue game 3, they should have won.
They should have won. No, they really should have won game 3 too.
You could argue that.
It is very the Pacers. If the Pacers were ready, they'd probably be up 2-1 in this series. But I just don't think they are. The Halliburton injury obviously hurt them in game 3 as well. But it's just that game 1, because you come into the series expecting Boston to blow one of the first 2 at home. At least that's how I am, just because that's what they've done consistently.
I knew they was going to trick one off. I thought they was. They still might.
And game 1 was the one they tried so hard. They tried so hard to lose that game. They tried so hard, but the Pacers tried harder. because it was just like turnovers down the stretch, some interesting shot selection, and then the Celtics getting the ball back with like 5 seconds left
Yeah,
somehow.
both teams trying to lose. Yeah, they both
And it's just like the Jaylen Brown 3 where Pascal doesn't even put his hands up. He's got his hands behind his back because he doesn't want to foul. I'm like, dude, just put your hands straight up at least. I'm like, dang, he still almost fouled him. He almost fouled him. He could have got a flagrant foul for going into the shooter's landing space. He's lucky that didn't happen. But it was one of those things, especially in game one. Once it went to overtime, it's like the Pacers are not going to win this. Once it went to overtime, I'm like, y'all got to win regulation. And then game 3, I know Halliburton is out, but they got like every team in the NBA. I'm gonna show that I'm a little bit of a nerd by saying this. I don't know if any of y'all watch Dragon Ball Z and y'all know what a Zenkai boost is, but
I do.
it's sometimes when you're at your worst, sometimes you get a little boost and you become way stronger. A lot of NBA teams get a Zenkai boost for one game when their best player goes out because everybody else wants to prove that, even without him, we can still do it, right? And game 3 was the Pacers game to do that. And for like the first 2-3 quarters, it looked like that's what was going on. And then it was just down the stretch. It's the same thing. It's the turnovers, the shot selection. And then you got a bunch of people that haven't been there before that are kind of trying to figure out what their role is without Halliburton out there. And Halliburton is so good at not just because, obviously he's had his criticisms for not shooting as much. But in terms of him running the offense, he's so important to their offense. Even if he's not always the one making, like actually getting the assist, whether he's getting like the hockey assist or he's just running the plays and like all that kind of stuff. Like he's a good game manager. And not to say like I think Nembhard and McConnell they've done fine, but they're just not the same level of player. And then down the stretch, and that's what we talked about in the last series when you got the best players. Like the Celtics have had the 2 best players in the series, and then you get Al Horford having a career game from 3, and it's hard. Like, which and that's another thing that I think has been a little bit underrated. Maybe not underrated, but it's not just that the Celtics have good role players; it's that they have so many of them. And on any given night, any of them can go off. So, like, it could be the Derek White game. It could be the Al Horford game. We've even saw, like, earlier, we saw, like, a Sam Hauser game where he hit 3 or 4 3. Yeah, Peyton Pritchard games. Like, all of these different guys have had these, like, one-off games where, whereas if you're looking at other teams, it's like they're really relying on maybe 1 or 2 of their role players every night. Where the Celtics can really be like, okay, if like any of these guys can go off on any given night. And I'm not even mentioning the fact that they got Drew Holiday, who obviously isn't, the offensive on offense. He's not the guy that you're expecting to go out there and give you 20 a night, but he's done it before. And I think we will see him have one of those games where he hits a bunch of shots out of nowhere. Cause we've seen him do it in the past. He's been very streaky, but on defense, he's been awesome. Right, and their defense, I think, is going to help them a lot. I do think they're going to need Porzingis back if they want to win the finals.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they're going to have Porzingis, and it can't be Porzingis at 50%. Like, it's going to have to be Porzingis, if not fully healthy, 85, 90%, like, if they want to win it.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. They're going to need Porzingis. We won't get too much into a finals preview. Obviously, again, it's not over, but it is over based on history. So, but when it's official, hopefully we'll know about the next time we record. We'll get into more of a preview. But yeah, they will need Porzingis because for what they need to do on both ends, he unlocks all that. I'll get into detail, but basically he's a walking mismatch on offense and defensively. Allows them to do what they need to do. But in this series, like the Celtics are doing what they need to do. They didn't lose the trick-off game. So once they didn't lose the trick-off game, okay, they felt pretty good. And then on top of that, just Al Horford, like Al Horford couldn't make a 3 for like the last 2 series. And then that Cleveland game, the last game against Cleveland, he had 6 threes. And obviously in the Pacers game too, he only took 1 3. But the other 2 games, he's combined for 10 threes in 2 games. Like, so Al Horford stepping up big has been a big time thing. Like I think, and then obviously Tatum too. Tatum's averaging 32 in the series, and Brown's averaging 30. Like they're like you said, they're doing what they need to do. Obviously, Drew Holiday's having a really good offensive series too. He's averaging 19, but he's made some big defensive plays, just cutting off Halliburton's water in terms of what he wants to do from a playmaking standpoint, and not just Halliburton, but just obviously McConnell and Nembhard in that second half. Because Nembhard had a great game in that game 3. But again, like you said, the only person that's really been there on that team has been Pascal, and even Pascal had a couple of mistakes too. And that's an NBA champion. He's been proven at worst second option on a championship team, and he was having some mistakes. So Boston's just kind of did their thing. Again, obviously, I think Tatum stepping up has been big time. Obviously, Derek White's had a decent series. Again, Boston, they beat themselves usually. Like I always say, they're so talented. The only thing that really beats themselves is they settle for the 3 ball too much, or they're just not locked in defensively. But when they're locked in, they're one of the better teams. I mean, they're arguably the best team in the league. They didn't like people like to scoff at like what they do. Like, you're so good when teams like, again, I know it's fun to hate on teams and have agendas about teams, but your team, a team is really good when all they got to do is try to point at the negatives because you're so good at everything you do. Like that's like the negative is basically they trick off a game not on purpose, but basically trick off a game because they're so good, or like they don't move the ball enough, or like Tatum hasn't been great enough when he's averaging. Obviously, basically after game 2 in the second round, he's been great, really elite. He's getting back to what he used to do. Obviously not shooting the ball well, but it's just like when you got to find so many things to say a team's not good, they're probably really good. Like, again, they didn't win 64 games for no reason. They built this team out how they wanted to. And again, it's showing. Like, again, the experience is showing because, again, we go down and list the line. Obviously, on their team, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Derek White, Al Horford, like none of these guys won championships, but I mean, Drew Holiday won a championship. A lot of these guys have been on deep playoff runs. I mean, again, Derek White was part of that playoff run last year. And the year before that too. And obviously, Tatum and Brown have been there forever. So like when you have this many playoff runs, and then on top of that, your best players are in their prime, like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are entering their prime, that just it makes a big difference. Like you said, they're role players. I mean, again, it depends on who you count as a role player. Because again, realistically, fully healthy, they got 4 all-star guys, like who made an all-star team. Really 5. I mean, but Al Horford's more of a role player at this point. He's not the same all-star guy. But point is, like you said, they can go off at any time. Like Horford had a game last game and shoot. I mean, I don't know if people saw it, but that pass just ran. That pass that Tatum had behind the back to Horford was a crazy pass, probably one of the best passes I've seen him make. But yeah, like they just made big plays. And again, like I've been saying it. Obviously, I could end up being wrong. I think I said it a month ago or 2 months ago. Like I feel like this Boston year, in terms of like just winning, like it seems like the things are lining up for them to win it. Now they got to do it, obviously, but like it just seems like it's lined up to be that type of year. Guys are playing a little bit different. Obviously, I know Tatum's still under criticism for how he plays, but again, this guy's a superstar. This guy's at worst top 10 player in the league. Where you put him in top 10, okay, but like worst top 10 player in the league, you can't just scoff at like his averages of like 25, 10, and like 6, basically leading the team in every category. Like they're just built for this. So obviously they're doing what they need to do. Again, they're going to need, like you said, they're going to need Kristaps Porzingis. That now I know they haven't needed him in these first couple rounds, but they're gonna need him for the finals. It don't matter. Listen, it don't matter. Look, Minnesota pull off history or not, or if it's Mavs or the Mavs just finish it out, they're gonna need him for either one of them. So he's literally the difference maker. They made that trade because he's the difference maker. Again, he's not their best player. That's Tatum, but he is their X factor, and he's the key to them. Like he's the most important player on that team because of what he does and how his versatility on both ends opens up the team to be from, because they're still a really good team now, but with Porzingis, they're like great. Like they look like the best team in the league. The only time they didn't was maybe against Denver, and obviously against that matchup, but Denver's not in the picture no more. So yeah, I mean, Boston did their thing. Again, I expect them to wrap this series up tomorrow. I hope they wrap this series up. No disrespect to Indiana. Look, great year. You get to the conference finals for the first time in 10 years. And Halliburton's first playoff appearance, your first playoff appearance since I think, 3 or 4 years ago or 4 years ago, something like that. This is a successful run. Now, granted, I hope for them, Indiana, they don't overdo it or get too complacent where they just bring back everybody, but at the same time, you don't want to go over the top and trade all your assets away. Like, they got to find a good medium in terms of what they want to do in the offseason. But I mean, again, you just got to, they got a lot to look forward to. But this is Boston. Boston's on a different level. As I like to say, there's levels to this, and just Boston's on a different level. And we've seen that. So, and that's no disrespect. That's just part of, that's just the game. So it is what it is in that perspective.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if Boston still does win in 5. We'll see. But I did feel like if the Pacers were going to win a game, it was going to be that game 3. But then once Halliburton was out, that didn't really seem the same. But I mean, like, they played great. They really, like I said, they should have won game 3. They should have won game.
They were up like 20 or 18.
Yeah, like they had a 20-point lead. But it's just experience is so important. Experience is so important, and it's not always going to the championship. It's not always winning the finals. It's experience. Sometimes it's just like even being in the playoffs at all. Like, a lot of the guys on the Pacers have not even really been in the playoffs.
Or play that many minutes in the playoffs, like big minutes, like 20 minutes a night type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it. And then the Celtics, I mean, they've been running like a well-oiled machine all season. And I think, like, not to say they don't deserve to be in the finals, but when you look at their path, I mean, they were better than Miami and Jimmy Butler was out. They were better than Cleveland, obviously, and then Donovan Mitchell didn't play. And now they're playing the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton is out now too. So it's just like they've been relatively healthy besides the Porzingis thing, which Porzingis is supposed to come back. And they've run into a couple teams who have had their best player get injured during their series as well, which is not necessarily to say that it's not their fault. I mean, you can't control that.
It's part of the in every run. Like, it's part of the luck in every run that happens in the history of the league. It's just people don't want to acknowledge it because it's, again, if you hate the team, cool, but like, it happens. Like, yeah, players get hurt. It happens. Like, it's part of the game. So, people can't. I mean, you can look at it, but even then, that's what happened last year. Like, Denver had the 1 seed. Everybody's like, oh, they played a weak schedule. Well, yeah, that's what the reward is. Yeah, when you 1 seed, you're going to play easier opponents. That's the whole point. So yeah, like, they're going to get scoffed at for that. But yeah, like, yeah, they got the win. They won 64 games. I'd hope that we got an easy path. But like, I'd hope we have an easier time to get to the finals. So yeah, go ahead. But yeah, that's wild, bro.
Yeah, definitely. But next week we're gonna get into the probable finals, which is probably going to be Mavs and Celtics, unless a lot changes in the next 7 days. When
history is made.
Unless history is made, that's what we're going to be talking about. But other news, getting more to like some Grizzlies news this week, is this actually came out right after we recorded the last episode.
Yeah, Friday or Monday. Yep.
Yeah, Gigi Jackson made second team all rookie by literally 1 vote. I think he beat Trace Jackson Davis by 1 vote. And it was because 5 people, including Brian Windhorst, shout out Brian Windhorst. That's why you got to hit him with a little the Brian Windhorst meme.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that? Yeah, had Gigi as first team, whereas I don't think anybody had Trace Jackson Davis on first team. So even though I think Trace Jackson Davis did end up with more total votes, Gigi had more points because he had first place vote or first team votes more than just second team votes. And I was really happy when I saw it. I was really happy for him. Obviously, the Instagram live of him talking about, like, they said I couldn't play. They said I needed to stay in college. They said I could play with teammates. They let me haul 45, like all of that. When he was kind of talking, I was like, okay, I like that. Like, celebrate all of that. He deserves it. I mean, stats-wise, like, there's no question he was one of the 10 best rookies in the NBA this year, at least in my opinion, even though it might not have been in the traditional way you usually see rookies, where it's like a Trace Jackson Davis, even though the Warriors didn't end up making the playoffs, was, maybe they're, he's more of a role player, where Gigi was getting the ball a lot more. But it's like, when you look at the way Gigi was playing, the fact that he's literally the youngest player in the NBA as well, there's no way you could have left him off of a team. And if you did leave him off of the team, the only argument you would have had is games played. And games played, to me, is not a valid argument for a rookie award, because rookies is so like as a rookie, and for a lot of teams, rookies, their minutes, they fluctuate so much that it's like it's really not even worth it unless you're like a lottery pick. Like lottery picks,
and
you know,
even then, Embiid the rookie year when he first fully played, I think he only played like 40 games, something like that. And was still first team all rookie. Now he didn't win rookie of the year because of that whole thing, but he still made, I think, first team all rookie, and he's averaging like 20 and 10. Like it's all about the numbers at the end of the day, like for all rookie at least, and rookie of the year. So
yeah, no question. But I was happy about it. I was a little worried that he wasn't going to get it because of the games played thing. That's why I am glad they didn't add that games played stuff to the all rookie team like they did for all NBA and everything, just because I think that it is better for the rookies. Because like I said, you never really know how many games they're going to play and stuff like that. And it lets a guy like Gigi, who really came along in the second half of the season, like a lot of rookies do, to still get the recognition that I think he deserved. So I was just really happy that he actually made the team because, like I said, I wasn't sure if they were going to do it at first, but he got the votes he needed. Like I said, shout out Brian Windhorst and all the other first place or first team voters for Gigi Jackson for getting them there. And yeah, I was just really happy. And then first time the Grizzlies have had somebody on the all rookie team since I think Bane.
Yeah, Bane.
Yeah, so Bane was the last one to make the all rookie team. So in some good company with people on our team that have made the all rookie team, because that's now Ja, Jaren, BC, and now GG have all been all rookie teams. So in the past like 5-6 years. So that's big stuff too.
Yes. Listen, I was hyped. I was hyped when I saw that. I was like, bro, look, Gigi didn't make this rookie team. As soon as I saw it, I was hyped. I think I sent out the tweet, Gigi, like exclamation marks. Like I was hyped. I was turned. Because I again, man, listen, like I know people are gonna look at the games played, all this, but bro, when you're talking about what he did in the context he did it and comparing it to what we've seen from, I mean, if you want to compare to other rookies, cool, but in terms of just Grizzly context, like we asked for a player like his talent on this team, and he was that player regardless of the role once he got consistent minutes. Like I went back and looked, like there was only a couple games where he might have had under double digits, like it was like early on, but like whether he was a starter, whether he was coming off the bench, he was consistent like 12 to 14 or 12 to 15 points a night. And then when he's a starter, he averaged like 20 a night. And that was and that's not just with just G League guys. He was with he's with Jaren, he's with Bane a couple of those games, and he had games where he had 25, 30 points. And that was not him being the primary focal point. It's all off of just off-ball actions and stuff like that, not catch and shoot. Like he's getting the ball, but they're not running plays for him. And this is at a 19-year-old doing this. Like he was consistent regardless of the role. And again, that just shows how talented to do this. And why, again, listen, we still gonna push the agenda, start GG. Not just GG, but start GG events. But preferably for me, GG, just because of a lot of reasons. We'll get down that rabbit hole, obviously, when the offseason get here. But in just terms of context, like he's the only second rounder on the rookie team, like the mega rookie team. He's the only one that made it under 50 games, like playing under 50 games. I think he broke another record. Let me look at what it's saying. Youngest to drop 25 points off the bench. Like I think the last person was like Kobe Bryant. Like he had a lot of stuff going on for him, like a lot of historical things. Like, and you also got to think, I think he, again, was the youngest player in the league doing all this too, like this year. And I think, I can't remember who's had the stat, but he might be one of the younger players to make an all-rookie team in a while. Like it might be like in terms of like days, like years and days, like it might be like a while. So like he had, I won't say a historical rookie year, but he had historical type of benchmarks that he met in a rookie year. And again, we're talking about a guy who I think has another level to get to in terms of his whole overall game. Like he can be a better 3-point shooter in aspects. He can be a better driver, and he's wanting to work. And again, you got to think he's going to be doing this with more talent with him now. Like imagine when he gets to play with Ja, Jaren, and Bane. Like no disrespect to these players, but we saw Zaire Williams, we saw David Roddy, we saw any other players you can name, right, in the past look really good next to Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. and not do the same production that he had. At Gigi, at their best, they weren't as good as Gigi was this year by himself. And Gigi didn't get the luxury to play with three of those guys. He didn't get the luxury to play with Ja at all. So you're talking about a guy who's younger than those guys, more talented than those guys, and now he's going to get a runway, hopefully, if he locks in and stays serious on what he needs to do to play with those guys. You don't think we're going to look really different? Like, it's going to be a lot easier for him, and not just him, but the team in general. I'm just super happy that, they got him under a contract, cheap contract. Obviously, that helps with flexibility and stuff, but I am happy for Gigi because, again, people were on him talking about, like, hey, you shouldn't have left South Carolina, you're making a bad decision and stuff like that. And I always said, especially once they drafted him, I was like, he's going to make that money back. If he locks in, he's going to make that money back in no time. Like, he's going to make that money back that he lost as a first-round pick or lottery pick in no time if he works. And now there is a vision of him making that money back. Obviously, hopefully, he stays healthy and stays locked in. But, yeah, no, this is great. Again, like he said, added to good company with all rookie teams. And, again, like, I just think, the sky's the limit for really Gigi Jackson. Like, I really feel I'm high on what he can be. I'm sure they are too, but again, they understand he is like literally a kid. Because again, they did talk about the fines and the immaturities and stuff, and it wasn't bad stuff. It's probably like they didn't say what it was, but it's probably being late, not knowing how to be a pro yet. But that's why you got the vets that you have in this locker room for him to learn from those guys, and I think he did. And now I think this offseason is going to be big for him too, because again. Especially, when you talk about he's got Chris Middleton's number. Then you also talk about the thing where he had the interview where he's talking about he wants to be in an MPJ role with this team in terms of fitting next to Jaren and Bane. Like, you see the vision. Like, you can see that he understands what he needs to do and how he fits going forward. And that's the biggest thing, is understanding what your role could be, and having that self-awareness at that age. Now it's about putting in the work. So I'm excited to see what he does in Summer League. I'm excited to see, whether even if it's like 2 games he plays in Summer League, which I hope it is, because he's so good that we don't get, that he can sit out after that. And then, I'm just excited to see how he fits. Because again, I really think he is, if he's prioritized like he should be, he changes a lot of different things for what you can do for this team, or for what this team could be. And again, that's usually how it happens though. Like, we've seen teams in the past where if you be a championship team, it's usually never the lottery picks that usually change your trajectory. It's usually the picks that you find at pick 30 or pick 45, wherever these guys are drafted at. Like, you can go with the Warriors with Draymond Green. You can go with the Spurs back in the day when they took Tony at the end of the first round and then Ginobili in the second round. Like, you can go down the list of a lot of these teams. Shoot, I think even Chris Middleton, even though he wasn't drafted by Milwaukee, but he's a second round pick. Drew Holiday late first. Like, you find these guys. That's really where you make your money in terms of team building. So this is just another one of those stories. But yeah, shout out to Gigi, man. I'm super happy, super excited for him. And again, I'm hoping year 2 is even better, because again, he averaged 15 points this year on decent efficiency, and that was with a bad team for most a bad content. So again, I just want everybody to understand, if everybody's healthy next year and he's doing the same thing. Listen, that's all I got to say. It might get a little scary.
And I think
get a little scary depending on what happens.
I think he will be better. He's gonna be better. I know sometimes year 2 there is a little bit of a drop, and then year 3 you see like the real jump. I mean, that's how it is a lot of times. But I do feel like for him, you're gonna see an initial boost just because, like you said, he's gonna be playing with Ja. He's going to be playing with Bane. He's going to be playing with all these other guys that he hasn't had a chance to really play with yet. So, whereas like down the stretch of the season this year, he was number 1 on the scouting report for the other team. Like, he was the guy. Like, he was starting.
And he had a 40 ball against Denver. And I know it was like the last game, but it wasn't like he's going against terrible players. He's going against their starters. You know what I mean? So.
No, yeah, 100%. And that's why I do feel like he's going to be better next year. And I think, like, we're going to see all the stuff that he's done in the offseason. I think he's going to come back as a better shooter. We're going to see more of the off-the-dribble game with him. Whether he does start or whether he is, like, kind of the 6th man, either way, I think either of those roles could be nice for him. And I think he's going to, like, and even if he is the 6th man, I do think he's going to still play a lot of minutes with John Bane and Jared.
Yeah, he's going to have a substantial role just like Vince. They're going to play like 20, 25 minutes a night at worst. So, yeah. They're gonna have substantial
100%. And so it was really good to see him make the all-rookie team. In terms of his potential, like, I mean, like you said, this guy's the limit. Gigi Jackson could legit be the best player on the Grizzlies one day. Like, not saying it's likely, but like he has that kind of potential. Like he was number one, he was a number one high school recruit for a reason. Like like you said, the sky's the limit. There's no telling what he's going to be in 2-3 years. But I'm really excited to see year 2. And I think that him making the all rookie team and everything that can be a good confidence builder, going into the workouts and everything. And yeah, it's going to be awesome to see the kind of player he kind of becomes. But yeah, I did kind of want to go ahead and move on to our last part of this episode, because as y'all know, me and Alex are big WNBA fans. There's been a lot of publicity going on with the WNBA coming on. So we got early thoughts on the WNBA season. There's a lot to get to. Obviously, the biggest thing has been the whole Caitlin Clark playing her first 6 games, which, first of all, we were talking about it when we first started. Their schedule has been crazy. Like, they have had a crazy schedule.
Absurd.
Because, like, just looking at it, like, they've already played 7 games, and most of the teams have only played, like, 4 or 5. So it's like they've been playing basically every night, and they've played the Sun twice. They've played the Aces. They've played the Liberty. And these are all, like, they basically played all the best teams.
All the best teams.
NBA.
Yeah, literally.
And you know, people that are big WNBA fans and people that have been watching for a long time knew that it was probably going to take Caitlin a little bit of time to adjust to the physicality. She's had the moments where you see it, like when she hit that dagger 30-foot 3 the other night, like you see, okay, like it's still the same player you saw at Iowa, but it is going to take her a little bit of time to kind of adjust to the physicality, adjust to, you know, just better defense in general. I mean, you got to keep in mind, I mean, the jump from women's college to WNBA is bigger, in my opinion, is bigger than the jump from college to NBA. Just because there's so many less teams, the talent pool is so much smaller just overall in terms of who's in the league. Like, just imagine how good all the NBA teams would be if there's only 12 teams. And it's so there's really, like, we were talking about this, the Mystics aren't good, obviously, but there's not really that many, like, bad teams. Like,
an extra point real quick. They only get like a week to basically transition. They got the draft, and it's like 2 weeks in your training camp. It's not like you get 6 months to adjust to all this. Like, you don't get a summer league. So they're going
like there's no like nights off where you're playing. Like, there's not really somebody who's just taking the season away. Like, that you don't see as much of that. So, and like I said, the Fever. She's basically been playing the best defenders. I mean, Dejanay Carrington played awesome defense on her in the first couple games. And then the Connecticut Sun, I mean, they have Alyssa Thomas. I mean, I know Alyssa Thomas wasn't guarding her like one-on-one, but she's one of the most physical players in the WNBA, and she met her at the rim a couple times. And I just feel like I think Caitlin is going to be awesome. She is and I think she's going to be Rookie of the Year. She's going to be better than she's played so far. But we're just seeing the growing pains. Like, everybody has growing pains. And that's why I was like, and it's the same thing with Ant. Like, I'm just saying, like, putting too much pressure on somebody when they're still growing as a player. Because as great as Caitlin is, you know, she can still get way better than she is right now. And I think that after, you know, we'll check in about 20-25 games. And we'll see when she's in a rhythm, when she's gotten used to how she's going to be guarded. One thing that has been a positive is, even though she hasn't shot the ball well, she has still been able to put up some pretty solid nights in terms of scoring. And then the passing is still there. She's had some, I know she had 8 assists in the game that they just had. I think she's been solid in terms of being like a rebounder, which is something I didn't really expect. So I know she had triple doubles and stuff in college, but you don't really expect that. So the turnovers are something that she's going to have to get better at, obviously, but that comes with learning more and, like I said, getting in a rhythm in the WNBA game. And then also, some of her turnovers have been on her teammates. Like, some of their teammates just haven't caught the ball. Like there's been a lot of turnovers that have gone off people's hands, so it's not all on her.
Butterfingers.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like some of the conversation around Caitlin early has just been crazy, and it makes sense. It makes sense because she is such a big star in terms of like how she came out of college. But it's like, dude, people need to chill out. I think people on both sides need to chill out. And it can go back to when they were saying that like Diana Taurasi and all these people were hating on her. I was like, no, I don't think they were hating. They were being honest. I mean, we know how good Kelsey Plum is now. When Kelsey Plum played her rookie year, people like they were like, she's a bust. People were calling her a bust.
First couple years, exactly. Like people understand she wasn't all-star till like year 4 or 5.
Yeah, it takes time to adjust, and I think they need to make sure Caitlin gets that same time that any other prospect gets. But I know it's so hard because I know people are trying to rush her to be the 30 points a night, 6 threes, and all that she was in college, and it's like it's a different level. Like it's gonna take her a minute to adjust. It's only been 6 games, but I mean, I think she'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, she's still. I'm looking at it now. She's still top 20 in points, and she's top 5 in assists. Like, what are we talking about? Like she's averaging 15, 6, and 5. And she's got 5 turnovers. It's not great. Shooting 89% from the line and 37% from the field, 32 from 3. But considering the context, people understand Indiana got the number 1 pick for a reason. They're not a great particular team. They got talent, but they got to figure out that talent and how it fits and all that. And everybody,
they have too much talent to be as bad as they have been. Because Kelsey Mitchell is awesome. Aaliyah Boston has been playing the way that we know that she can play. But they do have I know they had a tough schedule, but they're not 1-6.
Oh, you know. Yeah, and I think they will get better. That's the thing. I think some of this is just a product of playing, like you said, the teams they're playing against have been together longer. Because they beat the team they were supposed to beat in LA, and they were more talented. Like it's more so when you go look at this team, like I mean, they could have beat those teams. Like there was a couple times where they came back and won, but like Connecticut's 5-0, and then Las Vegas, defending champ. Liberty was in the finals. Like we're talking about teams, literally three. Those 3 teams were literally top 4 last year, like in the league. Like, and they got veteran. Like it's like they got talent for sure, and they're better than 1-6. But I think again, once they start playing teams that are more like once they start playing more of the no disrespect to these teams, like once you start playing more of the Chicago's, maybe Seattle's, maybe Washington's and Dallas's, where teams are hurt and or got similar talent, or I think you'll see different games. But for now, it's just an adjustment period. Because again, and I mean, they even said that. I think I remember seeing an interview about it. I think Erica Willard said it, which one of our teammates. He said they much rather get these games out the way anyway. So by that time, they get 2 later in the season, they're not surprised by what they're seeing from a team standpoint, but also for Caitlin from what she's seeing. And again, I'm saying all this, we're talking about her struggling, and she's still averaging 15, 5, and 6. I know that doesn't sound crazy because we're so depending on if you're, keep up with the W, that if you're an NBA fan, you're like, that doesn't sound crazy. But for W standards, that's crazy for rookies. Like rookies don't come in averaging like 15, 6, and 7. Like rookies don't come in top 5 in assists usually, like off the rip.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, off the rip. And this is like you said, we're talking about players not catching the ball, fumbling the ball, missing. Like, imagine if they weren't doing that. She might be at like 7 or 8 assists. Because I think people sleep on her as a passer, because people understand like she's such a good offensive player, but she's really a great passer. Like she's really a good point guard. So, if she was just a shooter, that wouldn't be the appeal. Like she's a really complete player. It's just again the threes. People fall in love with that because it's quote unquote Steph like. But like, I think she's gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. Like. Again, the discourse is what the discourse is, especially on Twitter. It's so maddening, it's so goofy. Most of it's not even about basketball at this point anymore. Like it's so goofy. Like I just hate it. I try to, you try to cut out the fluff, but it's so hard because, you watch a game and then somebody, I follow that I know will see a tweet and they'll say the same thing. Like, come on now, like what is that? So like I see it by nature, but I mean, I think they're going to be fine. Like, there's nothing to really worry about with them. Like, it's like you said, it's growing pains. Literally everybody goes through it. We just talked about it for last 40 minutes about the NBA teams going through growing pains. WNBA teams are no different. Aces had to go through growing pains too. and they were back-to-back champ. But before they back-to-back champ, they had to go through growing pains. I remember seeing those growing pains happen out in front, like them losing to Phoenix and then losing in the bubble to Seattle. Like I saw all that. Like they weren't the same team, and then they finally got over the hump. Made some, got some different players in there, got a different coach in there. Players got better, and then look, and that was like 4 or 5 years after the fact because they got three straight number one picks, and they didn't that didn't happen for them until 4 or 5 years down the line. And now you talking about the Indiana Fever, who I think they got 3 number one picks. Am I right? I'm on my 2, or is it 2? I think it's 3.
Yeah,
it was 2 or 3. I can't remember if Smith was a number one pick or not. Alyssa Smith, I can't remember if she was one pick. She might have been. No, she was. I think she was 3.
No, she wasn't number 1.
Yeah, I can't remember. But either way, top picks. You know what I mean? Like highly. Yeah. But last 2 number one picks. But like it takes time. So it's part of the process. Nothing to worry about. Caitlin's been fine. I would like to see the turnovers be down, but like you said, she's adjusting to the physicality, adjusting to, hey, I can't make that pass like I could in college. Like that's the type of stuff those passes are usually when I watch. So she'll be fine. Like give it another month. Like in July, like in June, I expect to see a better Caitlin, like more efficient. You're gonna see games where she having like 20 and 10. And they have a big win. Like, it's gonna happen. I ain't worried about Caitlin at all. Not even the slightest at all.
Yeah, for sure. And then kind of talking about like the team. I mean, I know it's only been like I said, most teams only played like 5 games. The team that surprised me the most has been the Lynx, just overall. Not to say that like everybody kind of expected the Lynx not to be like a bad team, but coming into the season, you're like they might mess around and be like the 7, 8, something like exactly. That's kind of what I was expecting. I do really think that them like having Courtney Williams and everything, I think that's been big. I think she's played really well for them. Nafisa Collier might be the MVP. I mean, just early on. I mean, she's averaging, I'm looking at it right now, 24 and 11, right? And 2 blocks and 3 steals. Like, so early pick.
No, I'm making that face. If anybody's looking, I'm making that face because yeah, he's right. Yeah, 23, 10. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So like she's been incredible. And it's gonna be one of those things where we'll see if they can keep it up. But I mean they did beat the Liberty the other night. They beat the Storm, who I think the Storm they're not as young as like the Fever, but I think they're gonna have some growing pains as well, just because they haven't played as well together. I think they're gonna be better like down the stretch. I think they started like 0-2 and they're already back to 500. But the Lynx have just been the team that surprised me the most. And it's like, not to say that you don't expect Nafisa Collier to be as like a good player, but she's been like, she's almost taken her game to like another level, I feel like, just to start the season. And you can just tell, it's like sometimes you see like that switch kind of flip to where you go from somebody who you're an all-star, all WNBA, all whatever, to where now on any given night, you're the best player on the floor. And I feel like that's where she's at right now too.
Yeah. I think the thing is, I think Fee for sure has been obviously to me like MVP type of player. Obviously I think you got to think about in terms of accounting for like just I didn't expect them to be 4-1. Like I said, I expect them to kind of be like playing, or not playing, but like 7-8 range. And then you kind of basically after that now have basically they've been 4-1 basically as good as Connecticut. And that's like with Diamond Miller being hurt. That's with her being out. And then I think their starting big was missed a couple games because they were still overseas. Like you have all that going on and you're still top 3 in the league. So, you got to give them credit. I do think Fee has a good MVP case. That's really the biggest surprise to me. Dallas might be another one because Dallas has literally got like 9 players and they're 3-2 head above water, which is kind of crazy because you're missing your best player or arguably second best player, and then you're missing Howard, 2 all-star players, and Enrique's been going crazy, averaging like 29 tonight. So I'd probably say that's another one. And then Chicago's another team where they were expected to be like Washington, and I think Teresa Witherspoon and her influence on their culture and stuff has really kind of been prevalent. Like you've been able to see like, oh yeah, like she's setting the tone for what they're going to be. They play hard and physical every night. And I think that alone gives them a chance. And obviously when you got Angel Reese who sets the tone like that on both ends of the floor, playing hard and having a motor that she does, I think that kind of just gives them a chance to really be more competitive than most people give them credit for. And they might sneak around and make the playoffs off of that because they haven't even had Cardoso yet from South Carolina. So
and that's be big too. I am going to be interested to see how it's going to happen when Cardoso comes back, just to see how Reese and Cardoso play together. Not to say that I don't think they can. I think they'll figure it out. But just like we're saying with anybody, there's going to be like they're going to have to figure it out. And I think it's going to take them a little bit to kind of figure out like to pick their spots. Obviously, Angel Reese is going to be playing more of the 4, which I think she is kind of suited for that. Like if she can stretch her game out a little bit and start hitting some, at least mid-range jumpers and stuff like that. Because, I mean, if you have both of them down there, one of them has to be able to shoot a little bit. Like, you're not expecting them both to just go on the block and post up, 20, 30 times a game or something crazy like that. Yeah. So, I like one of them is going to have to space the floor a little bit more. And I think that I think Angel's been working on it, but like we've continued to say, I mean, there's only like, especially if you make a deep run in the tournament, you barely have a month to get prepared for the WNBA season. So like Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink, all these people that made those kind of deeper runs, like it's tough. I mean, you got like a month to be ready. And and that's why I think it's going to be hard to maybe see the development of like Angel Reese having a jumper or something by the end of this season. But hopefully like coming into next season, that's something that she will have been able to add to her game and stuff like that as well. And then I do want to talk about the other rookies too, because I know you want to talk about Cameron Brink too. And I want to talk about Cameron Brink because Cameron Brink is already like defensive player of the year caliber player as a rookie. Like she is already at that level on the defensive end. And it's going to take her a little bit longer on the offensive end just because I feel like a lot of the times at Stanford, she didn't, not to say that she can't make any moves on the post, but it's like she didn't really have to because she was just bigger than everybody. So, and, she had a great team around her, so she wasn't even always the leading scorer. She didn't have to score all the time. She can kind of play that, I'm going to be a rim protector, get steals, be switchable, and I'm, 6'5", and I can guard anybody on the court. Like that's her thing that she is gonna like hang her hat on. But I feel like the offensive end is something that we saw a little bit of it tonight. I think she had like 15 points tonight, so we gotten to see a little bit of it. But I think the offensive end, as she kind of continues to develop, is what we're gonna see. But the way that she's played on defense, like from day one, has been really impressive to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the stat that I think it's so crazy that seeing that stat, bro, about what was it? Basically, she's averaging 3.2 blocks, and basically, if it holds, she'll be the youngest player in the league or in WNBA history to do that. Again, I was watching the game tonight. Obviously, I watched most of the games when I can, but especially for particularly the newer, I won't say newer players, but the players that I've been following college for so long. Obviously, with Brink, Clark, Reese, like, I've been high on Cameron Brink. I've been said that she'd be number one in most other draft classes had not, as I like to call different players, if basically Caitlin Clark, as special as she's been, if she wasn't around, then she'd be number one in most other classes. And again, offensively, I think for Cameron Brink, I think obviously with her, I thought it was going to take a while in terms of what she could do offensively. I thought it was just going to be a harder thing to kind of overcome. Like, not overcome, but like I thought her offensive, I won't say ways away. I thought her offensive game was kind of like she was solid. Like, obviously, she was like 20 and 10 in college, but she never could shoot the ball particularly well. But then I also had to account for she's going to be in W spacing, which is a lot different than college spacing, and that's the same for NBA too, where you put players in modern spacing that is professional spacing, they look a lot different. And I kind of think this is the thing we're seeing with Brink, where she's been able to show off a lot more of her offensive package, being able to take players off the dribble. I think she's made a lot more threes, or been more willing to take threes. And again, this is all in the spite of she's still fouling like, shout out to Jaren. She's fouling like rookie Jaren Jackson Jr. She can't stop fouling, like literally can't stop fouling. Like literally literally her only problem is she can't stop fouling. Like she had like 2 fouls early. I think she had like 12 points in like 11 minutes tonight, and then had 2 fouls, and then had to sit. Like she, like you see the vision, like, and so I'm looking at her and I'm seeing like, again, most people might not know this name. I'm not saying she's gonna be this player, but you look at her game, you can see like, oh, she might mess around. I'm not gonna say she's gonna be this player, but you can mess around. She could have some Lauren Jackson to her game. If people know who Lauren Jackson is, she played for Seattle a long time ago with Sue Bird. She was cold, like one of the best players in the W ever. Like she was like a 6'4", 6'5" big that could stretch the floor, was giving you 20 and 10, was blocking shots. Like she was doing everything. And Brink does a lot of those similar things. And I mean, again, the league is dominated by forwards anyway. Brandon Stewart, Asia Wilson, like you got versatile feet and fee. You got a lot. Alyssa Thomas, like let's keep going on. It's the same as NBA. Like it's a big person's league. Like usually, the bigger you are, more versatile you are, the better player you're going to be, a more dominant player you're going to be, and that's the same here. So if she can put it all together, I think she could easily be like a top 5 player in the game. Obviously, in like 3 or 4 years. Now again, she got to get stronger, strip the fouls, all this other stuff. But yeah, like. LA might got him one. Yeah, LA might got him one because she does a lot of stuff where I'm just like, that's different.
Hey, hold up. They don't just got one, they got 2. Because you know.
Oh, yeah, shout out to Rakia. I'm gonna give
hey, Tennessee legend, Tennessee Lady Ball legend, Rakia Jackson.
Yeah, here you go. Tennessee legend.
I'll say this. Rakia, like I've watched as much Rakia over the last like 2 years in college as probably anybody when she was at Tennessee. Rakia Jackson has been ready to go to the WNBA since she was a junior in college. Like she is her game, the way that
she got a program.
She got a program. Like the way that her game is translated, it's almost like she's like, you know, she's not scoring the same number of points, obviously, and she's coming off the bench, which I don't think she's gonna be coming off the bench for very long. Like
Kurt Miller tripping. I don't know what he's doing.
Anyway, I don't know why. Like because eventually they're gonna have to play Brink and Rakia together. And I think they have the positional versatility to where they could be your 3 and your 4. They could be your 4 and your 5 too, like if they had to be. And I think that, but however you want to do it, if you want to play them with another big, or if you want them to be the 2 bigs and you go with a smaller lineup, the best version of that team is with both of them on the floor. Especially when Rakia has been, you know, locked in on defense more than she was in college. Not to say that she didn't try on defense in college, but it's just like you've seen her at times, especially late game, where she's had some clutch blocks, some clutch steals. There's a play she made where she got a steal, ran down the court, and made a great pocket pass in the clutch in one of their first couple games. The turnaround jumper, like I would bet my life on a Rakia Jackson turnaround fadeaway, and I would sleep well. Like I'd be like, yeah, because it is automatic, man. It's automatic, and I think that's what. And I think it's going to be very easy. It's going to be easier for her to get to that in the WNBA because, like you said, there's more spacing, better players around her, and stuff like that. And when she gets to that shot, she has to shoot like 70-80% on those. Like it was really crazy to watch her in college. And then I feel like she hasn't even had to do a lot of the off the dribble stuff. She hasn't even had like a chance to do a lot of it, but she has the off the dribble stuff in her game. And I think we're going to see that as the season goes on. And yeah, like you said, hey, we got to get her in the starting lineup as soon as possible. But I don't want to leave any teams out. Obviously throughout the season, we're going to talk about every team at least some point. But just early on, those were kind of the players, some of the teams that really stood out to me for like this first 2 weeks of the season, week and a half. So yeah, we're just about 2 weeks into the season, and I mean I think it's been a great start. I think it's like the WNBA is having more publicity than it's ever had. And even if it has led to some interesting conversations and narratives and all that, because like people be like, you see this and be like, is this? But this is what I love. This is what I wanted to see. I would rather have people have stupid takes about the WNBA than no takes at all. Because if you have stupid takes, that means you're at least watching. Because there's people that have stupid takes about the NBA, and there's a million of them. So, and that's an understatement. So it's like I'm fine with that. You know, you might have to tell somebody that they don't know what they're talking about. That's okay. At least they're trying. That and that's where I'm at. I'm all for anybody that's legit trying, man. So I'm just excited that the WNBA is finally getting the publicity that I think it does. It's always deserved, and that people, even if they are brought in by Caitlin Clark, I think a lot of people are going to come in and be like, okay, oh, let's watch this game, and be like, wait, hold up, Arike Gumbawale just had 40 points. Like, wait, hold on. Or you come to watch that, and then you watch DeWanna Bonner be a top 5 all-time scorer, and it's like, okay, she's hooping. Like, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that, of people who were slower to come around and were like, we're not going to watch it, whatever, to where now you'll see people who 4 or 5 years ago said they don't watch the women's game are now, you know, tweeting threads and all this stuff about women's games that you have just never seen in the past. So I just think it's awesome the way that it's really grown, and the fact that, you know, there's going to be more national televised games this year than ever before. More games on ABC, more games on NBA TV. Like, just it's so much easier to find the games than it was. And last thing before we kind of close, and I'll go to YouTube. Cameron Brink talking about, like, if you water it, it'll grow. Like, when it comes to the media and like the media coverage, I think that's been the main difference. I mean, they've treated the WNBA like a Premier League, and it has started to have that kind of effect, especially like on the culture, just in general. Like, I've seen so many more ads and so many more, whether it's, you know, videos of, you know, WNBA players out in the world, or people trying to get autographs, or videos of them with little kids and their fans and everything. It's just like, it's at an all-time high, and it's just awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, again, people gotta understand that if people go look at the leagues when they were like in their, was this the W's like 20, I want to say 26th or 7th year, I can't remember the year exactly, but relatively young. I would like for all people to go back and look at like the NFL, MLB, all these leagues that were in those years, and they're kind of like W's ahead of them in a lot of different aspects. So people got to understand and use that context for where the league is at. But like you said, a lot of it's more so about like she said, putting more eyes on it and stuff, and not only eyes on it, but making it more accessible. Like, that's been the biggest thing, I think, is if you make the games easier to access, you will have more eyes on it off that alone. Because I think that's really been a not problem, but been a big thing of why people haven't been able to watch, because they can't find out how to watch it. And then once you make it more accessible, putting more on national television, and having them more on social media, things of that nature, like, well, knowing, hey, we got a WNBA app, or like, hey, we got a game here, like that alone is going to put more eyes on it. And we're seeing that in the numbers, and we're seeing that in, obviously, like you said, the discourse. People know, they're not knowing what they're talking about, but talking about it anyway. But like, just all that, it adds up. And then obviously with this class, they're going to be a big part and play a big part in the game growing, because of them having an on-court brand, or being players all on the court and off the court. And then not only that, you got the classes coming after them too that are going to be even bigger stars because of where just the world is at, social media and all that thing. So it's just only going to get better. Like, it's only going to grow. I mean, they just added 3 teams or 4? No, 2 teams, 3 teams. Can't think. You added the Golden State team, you added the Toronto team. Yeah,
those are official, and there's going to be more.
Yeah, it's going to be more. Nashville.
Yeah, I'm about to say
Nashville. Please. Whoever's in the ownership group trying to be an ownership, please get it. I will be a season ticket holder. Please, Nashville, get Juju Watkins to Nashville somehow. That's why I need it now soon. But point being is, Yeah, that's what you need it now. We need that because Kathy said one more team. I said, listen, they need to add them before like 2027. But that's a whole nother point. We'll get to that down the line. But yeah, we need a team in national. Besides the point, yeah, they need, it's continuing to grow, and it's only gonna get better from here. Like people gonna understand because it's funny. Like people see the games and they're coming for one reason, like, oh, we're gonna come for see watch Caitlin Clark. Then they realize, oh man, like I think the biggest thing has been like Pat McAfee. Shout out to Pat McAfee. He'll go to a game and he'll be like, oh, we're going for Caitlin Clark. He's like, dang, like the Liberty are so great. And it's not even an account for like, that's not, no disrespect to Liberty, but like, have you seen Las Vegas Aces? Like Asia Wilson, like they're going to see one player and then they end up seeing like, oh, wow, this team's like, these players are actually really good. Or like this league is like, yeah, Caitlin Clark's good, but like there's players better than Caitlin Clark right now. Asia Wilson's the best player in the world. You got DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas, Fisa Collier, like Ryan Howard. Like I can go down and listen to line. A lot of great players. And so, that's really the biggest thing that you're starting to see is that they're getting more eyes on it. And now they're starting to see like, oh, this league is really, really good. So, and they're starting to continue to put into it, pour more into it. So, yeah, it's only going to get better from here on out. Like I expect it to only get bigger and, grow more like as it's always has in the past.
100%. And WNBA League Pass only $35.
Exactly. Y'all better cop that.
It's a worthy investment. If you're a basketball fan, there's no basketball going on over the summer that much until I guess the Olympics and Summer League and all that. But like, there's so many times where, like, if you're a real basketball fan, there's no reason why you can't at least tune into a couple of these games, man, because you'll see like there's awesome players on every team. That's why I said just with how there's so few teams, it's almost like every team. It like I said, except for like Washington, maybe every team has like a superstar or a star level player, all-star level player on it, right? So it's just been awesome to see. But I think everybody and just in general, the WNBA is getting the support it needs and everything. And I'm hoping we can do more to support it here on this podcast too, going throughout the season. So, but like I always say, I appreciate everybody who listened to this week's episode of the Next Gen podcast, and get out, watch some WNBA games, keep up with the WNBA. Let's get through these NBA playoffs and get to this NBA draft as well, because that's when we're going to really get into this Grizzly stuff. Probably going to get into some draft stuff coming up on the next couple episodes as well. But as always, I'm your host, Bryson Wright, and I was joined by my co-host, Alex Whitten, and we will see y'all on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Gen Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like and a comment wherever you download your podcasts. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co, where you will find comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports and how you can become an insider. We'll see you back here next time.